Catfish, it might not be a new record, but we're only 7 minutes late this time. But Dennis here, we got Dan, Alex, Muddy Water Search and Recovery.
Hello, everyone.
Hope all you guys are doing well. And the topic tonight, Jeremy Coots. Jeremy's been missing for 47 years now, as of today. 4 years old when he went missing from Atchison, Kansas. And we have searches we're lining up to do for him this year.
Yes.
And I do want to start real quick. I have had some people tell me, 47 years being such a small child, you're not going to find anything when you look for him. If you would have asked me that or said that a couple years ago, I probably would have agreed with that. But I want to jump back over to Lake Mead. We bring this up a lot because we have learned so much the last several years from Lake Mead. Those who don't know, Lake Mead, it's a Colorado River reservoir that was formed by the Hoover Dam, and it is on the border of Nevada and Arizona. There have been at least six sets of human remains found, mostly in the year of 2022. And the water levels have really come down because of the drought, and it was uncovering a lot of things. But two of those cases I found very interesting. One of them that was found in October of 2022 was confirmed as belonging to a Donald P. Smith. And he's originally from Las Vegas, but they identified him. They found him, identified him through DNA, and confirmed that he drowned in 1974. And he was able to be found, had been underwater for 48 years, and used DNA to identify him. I didn't think that was possible until this come along. The second guy was actually found concealed in a barrel, and he was found in May of 2022. They did find he died from a gunshot wound. There is signs that could actually be mob related, but the last report I read, which was from about a year and a half ago, they were using DNA to try to identify him. And they believe that he died in the mid to late 1970s based on the shoes he was wearing and the date those shoes were manufactured. They were like brand new shoes. So there's two cases that 40 plus years old was found underwater, and they're able to use DNA to identify those bodies. So Jeremy Coots, missing for 47 years today, while I'll admit it's beyond looking for a needle in a haystack, it is possible to find something still. And Lake Mead has just been an eye-opener all the way around.
I think there's possibilities that he could possibly be found. Because I guess in the big general picture of it is, I guess there's discussions that have happened with the search dogs. I know we've all discussed it, on our group talks. And I'm sure because both of you are more up to date on the ground search dogs and what they smell and all that stuff. The only thing is, if we, everything does look like it always points towards the fact of that he did go to the water. And at that time there was supposed to have been ice jams. There was that. So, did he misjudge where he was walking, and he thought he was walking on the bank, but he was really walking on the ice? And Unfortunately, could he have fell through, got trapped under the ice? Did he walk out on a chunk of ice and it broke loose? And did he float down and then eventually fell in? I mean, there's so many variables to the story. Um, I could see with the Lake Mead scenario, you fall in, you sink, you drown, that's where you stay, versus the river, you fall in, you have floods, you're pushed down, stuff comes downstream, logs move stuff. So I mean, I guess at this point anything is possible. But there's been so many rumors of things that possibly could have happened. I mean, we've had that discussion of the little boy that was supposedly seen that day down the road walking, and that's something we need to address. We need to be able to get in contact with those people that actually saw it, or a relative. We need to be able to gain access to the property. We need to be able to gain access along the river to the woods from point A to point B where that situation happened. There's so many things that we need to do. Not saying that, the police back in, February of 1977 didn't do a good job, but, how far did they actually go into looking? I mean, I would almost think that if they were out that day or the next day and they said, hey, this child possibly fell in, you would think they would have people looking down at the river, downtown Kansas City, Kansas, Missouri area, looking at the rivers, trying to see what's coming down. Were they searching all the creek banks with the helicopters, planes, I mean, there's so many things.
See, and that's a good point there. 1977, they did not have anywhere near the equipment and technology of today. And they did drag the Missouri River in the area where he may have went in. One of the biggest problems I see right off was, you mentioned the ice jam. The ice had jammed up around St. Joseph, which would have been north of this area, and the ice had just given way and was flowing downriver. I've spoke with his mom a few different times now, and law enforcement believed that when Jeremy got to the river, he tried to jump out on the ice, a piece of ice that was coming by, and slid off. Two different search dogs that are the air sniff dogs, they did follow a trail from the house all the way down to that spot on the Missouri River. You mentioned the pond, that the property owner there had mentioned possibly seeing Jeremy on the dam of his pond the day he went missing. From what I am getting from not only the mother, but in the book she wrote on Jeremy's case, was they did take the search team to this pond. At this point, the pond was frozen over. They did find footprints from a child on the pond dam, and they brought in a search dog that was picking up a scent from under the ice. So they had to throw dynamite on the ice to basically break the ice. Once they had it cracked enough, they used a boat to finish breaking the ice away, and then they drugged that pond. My concern with that pond is they may have drug it too soon. If you're using dynamite to explode, using the boats to bust the ice, and then go right into drag, you've already stirred up the water. So anything that may be on the bottom is now floating in the currents in that pond. A drag bar drags across the bottom of the body of water and will attach on to like a person that they can recover them. But if everything's stirred up and him so small, he could have been floating up off the bottom and the drag bar passed under him and the chains on the drag bars would have just pushed him aside, and they wouldn't have found him that way.
But
So,
not to interrupt you, but let me ask you this. Wouldn't you have think that if he fell through the ice, what was the timeline between, February 18th and the day that they actually blew up the pond?
I want to say that was within 2 days.
Wouldn't the ice have frozen back over, and couldn't you have looked at the ice and went, wow, that looks like something fell through, and it refroze and it looks different? I mean,
Right.
I'm just thinking of, I know this sounds stupid, but the times that I have had to go out and bust the ice up on the water troughs for the cows or the horses, I can tell you that the ice looks different. When I have to punch through it with the sledgehammer, it would look different. Now, granted, it's not an exact science in replicating what happened, but I would think that they would have probably have noticed that, and if they didn't see anything that looked like that had happened, I mean, 100%, why would they waste their time if they didn't see a refreeze from a hole? But supposedly they followed the scent there, correct?
Well, once they took the dogs to the dam, they started their search on the dam and was picking up a scent from the pond.
So my question would be, that pond and where this little child was seen compared to how far away from the actual babysitter's house and the railroad tracks. I mean, was it a miss? What do you guys call it? I forgot how you say it. They messed up. It wasn't the right thing. I'm just saying, to me, I guess if I would have walked out and looked at this pond and nothing looked like there had been a hole punched and the color of the ice was different, and usually when you punch a hole through ice, there's always bubbles under the ice and it changes. I mean, I'm just saying from the experience I've had of messing with animals in water troughs, at home. So,
Yeah, and most of us have thrown rocks into a frozen pond and come back later, and you could always see where that goes in.
Now, would he be heavy enough to break through the ice?
He was
40 pounds.
I believe 40 to 60 pounds.
And how thick was the ice?
At one point where they threw the dynamite was 6 inches. Because the other thing with this was, this particular day, they were expecting there to be a blizzard, but this particular day it wound up being 60 degrees out.
It's 6 inches thick. I have a hard time believing a 40-pound object fell through it.
Right.
I mean, and that could be a test. It's been so nice here lately.
But the test would have to be with something soft tissue. You know what I mean? It couldn't be a rock or a boulder.
No, but
right.
Let's say we went to the hardware store and we found a sack of concrete or a sack of sand that weighed 40 pounds. Yeah. We're able to verify that the ice is 6 inches thick. And if we just set it on there, because I guess it'd be different because you're laying a whole sack and not just 2 feet holding 40 pounds, the square inches of the pressure. But
now there is another way to go about that. Instead of setting it on it, stand it up on its side and just let it.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's, not that I want to argue anybody's stuff from the past and what they think has happened. I just have a hard time believing. I have a hard time believing that the babysitter was not paying attention long enough when she didn't hear 2 kids playing, making noises. It wouldn't have been like, oh, well, wait a minute, what's going on? Why am I only hearing one child? Or why did only one child come back to the house? You know, I know we've brought up the railroad tracks. I mean, we've brought up the whole discussion. What if, was there a train there? Who's pulled the records from that day in that area? Was any trains on the tracks that day? You know,
And was the train track on the baby side of the river or the opposite side of the river?
No, this side, the baby side.
You know, could there been transient people, hobo, you know, the typical hobo with the stick and the bag who's riding the train? Could somebody have grabbed him, you know? And that's kind of, when we go down that path and we discuss all these things, that's where I've kind of brought up that scenario of doing the DNA test from ancestry.com or any of the other ones, and you know, has Jeremy's mother and father done those type of tests to get it in the system? That way, if somebody ever, I mean, and this is a long shot, this is so far out in left field, it's somebody else's ball game, but what if Jeremy truly was alive, somebody grabbed him all these years, he finally questioned who he was or something, and he had done his DNA, and then what, you know, it's a huge what if. And I'm sure people are probably thinking, Alex, you are so far out in left field thinking this. But what's the possibility? I mean, how many times have you seen shows where people has questioned their past and they do the DNA and they're like, holy crap, I'm related to these people here and it's linked me, you know?
I'll give you a good example. Texas, a family was we're not on TikTok. A family was murdered. Okay, a little boy was abducted. They did exactly that. They did a DNA test through one of them sites, and the DNA pinged to the baby in Oklahoma 40 years later.
Yeah. And I mean, I hate to ask, you know, his mother and father. I would like to be able to discuss it and just, you know, because we're trying to exhaust every possible direction to look, you know, because I have a hard time believing if there was ice and there was this crap on the river, why were they not out with a plane flying and looking? You know, what was, and I have some of my notes in front of me, but I can't remember exactly what he was wearing. But if it was anything but white, it would have stuck out like a sore thumb if he was on top of ice floating, or he got caught up in an ice jam and was on the creek bank or something. I mean, why didn't they do these things? Why didn't they have people on horseback all up and down the river looking to see if something happened, you know?
Now they did search that area, and it's in her book that they did begin on day 1 and continued through day 2. On day 3, the governor actually activated the Kansas Guard to come in and assist with the search as well. At one point, and I want to say it was the following day from when he went missing, there were literally hundreds of people that showed up to walk the area to do a search to see if they could find him.
I mean,
And I haven't finished the book yet, but there is a lot in here that I wasn't even aware of. I didn't know there were hundreds of people that actually searched that area, but it is mentioned in there.
and you know, forgive me if I talk and I don't understand, and because I haven't finished the book. I mean, like I've said, I've been so crazy busy. It's like I don't even have time to sit down and read and do research here the last few weeks because it's just been so hectic. It is 100% one of these cases where proof gone, nothing. no clothes, nothing. No, I mean, and that's what's just crazy. It's like somebody grabbed him and he disappeared because he was grabbed, you know.
See, and he was also pretty much deaf. He had to have hearing aids. He did have his hearing aids with him that day. And the babysitter, the mom told me the babysitter was hesitant letting the two kids out to play that day just because it was wintertime and she didn't want it to bother Jeremy, but she did end up putting his coat on him and tying his hood on him and letting them go out to play. Her kid was also, her son was 4 years old as well, and the two kids went outside to play. They supposedly got into a little fight, as kids do, and Jeremy went one direction. Her son tried to follow him but couldn't find him. That's when he went back home and told his mom that Jeremy had went over the hill, and that was the direction of the Missouri River. The babysitter then ran out to look for Jeremy, and she could not find him, so she put out a call on the CB radio. Jeremy's dad rushed from work to the babysitter's house. He called his wife, Jeremy's mom, who was 9 months pregnant at the time, but she was at work, and told her not to worry. He didn't want to stress her out being so far into her pregnancy. She had 2 hours left of work. She finished the day. I'm sorry, she didn't finish the day. She went right over to the babysitter's house, and hundreds of people started showing up and searching the area. And they, like you said, they didn't find anything, no clothing, nothing. The trail that goes from the babysitter's house, it heads down towards the woods over the hill. There is a fallen tree or tree trunk that's laying there. The search dog actually trailed him to that. They could see the leaves were all rustled up from where maybe the boys had been playing. And from there, they trailed straight down to the river. I'm not real sure of the time frame, but there was a second person with the search dog that came and talked to her and asked to let his dog search. They took that dog into Jeremy's bedroom to let him get Jeremy's scent. That dog also followed the same exact trail to that log, and from that log down to the same spot on the river. And I want to say it's there it is. From the babysitter's home to this spot on the Missouri River, it's 400 yards away. And for me, 400 yards, 4 years old, yeah, they've got the energy to do that, but that's almost a very focused 4-year-old to go straight to that spot in the time frame that's allotted there.
But we're talking like a quarter mile.
Right.
I mean, four times 3 is 12, quarter mile. I mean, 1,200 and some feet. That, to me, that's pretty long. I mean, that's crazy because I haven't thought of it that way. I guess honestly, every time I've looked at the map, I'm thinking he just went a couple hundred feet.
Yeah, no, it was 400 yards from the front door of the babysitter to that spot on the river.
I just saw something came up on the screen, and I actually was gonna bring this up. Does the babysitter's son remember anything more now? So I was gonna bring up, has the babysitter's son to this day, because I would suspect he's right around like me and Tammy's age, has he ever publicly talked about what he remembers? Because has anybody ever seen anything like that? I mean, I personally have not.
I haven't seen nothing like that. The next time I speak with his mom, I can definitely bring that up. We were in pretty regular contact, but with the anniversary coming up, emotionally, that's a very hard time. This is her 4-year-old son. So we're kind of taking a break, working together on this. Let her get through today, the rest of the month, and she will reach out sometime in March around that time frame. Um, a lot of questions, but we do want to respect the family and everything.
Yeah.
And this is definitely one of the questions that I can bring up.
I wonder if any of their children, Jeremy's brothers and sisters, I wonder if any of them have ever done the DNA stuff on any of the sites, just out of curiosity, just to see if there's ever been any hits. Because I guess there's just a little bit of hope in me that, that he was grabbed, and that he did go somewhere and he was taken on a train, and, well, I mean, he could have been grabbed by somebody, because now, I mean, to be honest, I want to look at the maps again, because I really did. When Dennis, you and I looked at the maps and we talked about all this, I mean, I'm thinking he walked from like my front yard to the back of my property where the animals are at. I mean, that's how far I thought he went. And now we're talking a quarter mile, 1,200 and some feet.
See, and that was the other thing, this pond that was frozen over that came up. I want to say that was like 1 or 2 miles from the babysitter's house as well. I mean, it was a long distance.
And let's think about this. Everybody in the area probably had to have known what was going on. Wouldn't you think that the people down the street, if their kids were out playing and they're in this area and they're looking at this and they're got the search teams out there and they're doing all this, wouldn't you think somebody's parents would be like, "Oh, that was Bobby Joe's kid. He was out there playing the other day,
Right.
We're so sorry this has happened," or, "Oh, that's Fred's kid," You would think, I mean, I would think that they would think that somebody would have come forward and said, whoa, 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 that was my kids out playing over here the other day. That's not this little missing boy, and they would have come forward and
How
said,
old would he be?
He'd be 51 now. I mean, like I said, he was born 2 days before Tammy was. So he's 51 years old.
Dang, I was hoping I was going to get a hit on a background check. 49 is the oldest Jeremy Coots in the backgrounds.
Really? Well, I mean, going off his mother's records and the father's records, but I mean, there's no telling if he could have been grabbed. He could have grew up and people had lied to him and told him he was this old when he was really this old, and he had a different name and all this and that. But that's why I guess I wish we could get the opportunity to do a DNA test, to get his mom and dad or his brother's sister, get them on ancestry.com or 123andMe or whatever, any of them, and just get it out there and see if it does get any hits from something that's not known, I mean, and I'm not by any means trying to make anybody feel like giving them hope. I mean, of course, we always want to give hope, but I'm just curious if they've ever done that or they thought of it, because I just have a hard time believing that this is almost like a Randy Leach situation. Literally just up and vanished. No signs of nothing except, the child is this old when we have never nothing. no rumors, no accusations, no nothing. Whereas, like with Randy Leach's case, and I'm not trying to compare apples to oranges, but with Randy's case, we have all these other rumors. We have this happened, this happened. We have the California rumor. We have all of these. With Jeremy Coots, we have nothing. Besides, oh well, he went to the river, or oh, maybe he went down to this property and he was down in this area. He was by the railroad track. I mean, he could have. The river seems like the most plausible thing that's what happened to him. When you look
I will say this. I hope it's not the background I just pulled up.
What'd you find, Dan?
6 counts of second-degree murder.
Oh. Are we talking the same name, of course?
Yeah.
What about the age?
49.
Where's this person at?
North Carolina?
Do we have a picture?
No. One of them's arranged murder.
Oh, wow. I mean, we can say anything is possible, I just can't believe that. I can and I can't believe, because, like I said, we weren't there. This was 40 some years ago. There wasn't people on 4-wheelers. Maybe there was people on horseback or Jeeps driving up and down the levees and looking. I mean, I would have thought they would have immediately got somebody in a helicopter and started like downtown Kansas City and flew up the river really slow, looking at ice, looking at the creek banks.
How old was Jeremy when he went missing?
4.
I believe he was 4 years old.
Yeah.
Do you know his month he was born?
He was born October 30th, 1972.
Not the same one. This one was.
I say this is because his birthday is 2 days off from Tammy's.
Yeah, this one's August. Middle name Charles.
Wow. Ray. Jeremy's middle name is Ray. Ray Charles.
So you said the middle name's Ray.
Yeah, our Jeremy, his middle name is Ray. Jeremy Ray Coots. He was born October 30th, 1972. He went missing February 18th, which is today, 1977. Makes him about 4 years old, with a little bit of extra time on that. He's 3 foot tall, 40 pounds.
Now, do we know how hard it would be, say he was abducted? How hard would it be for someone to get his name changed without proper proof?
I think back in the day, I think anything's possible, because there was no technology. People could have made stuff up, typed it out. How many people didn't get a social security number when they were born till they were 5, 6, 8, 10 years old? I mean, if you look at the big picture, I mean, anything could have been done.
Now, how hard do you think it would be to get one of their family members to do one of them ancestry DNA tests?
I don't know. I mean, I would love to be able to bring this up to Jeremy's mother when next time, I don't understand, and none of us do, because we don't have a missing child. So we can't say that we know what she's going through. She's been dealing with this for 40 some years. So when she's ready to talk and Dennis makes contact with her, and we can move forward with starting searches and looking, trying to gain access to properties. I want to bring it up to her. I mean, and let's go back to the whole Apple AirTag test that I want to do. I mean, I do want to go to the area where he was missing, where he went missing, and I do want to get something that will float. And once again, we can't make 100% identical recreation of what happened because, well, there's no ice right now. The temperature's not the same. We could, could we? And I'm sure if I searched long and hard enough, I could find a 40-pound mannequin that we could get weighed down and we could do it. But by golly, I don't want to put that in the river, then have people calling and freaking out because they say they see a person in the water.
Right.
So I want to be able to get something. I want to be able to put Apple AirTag on it. I want to put it in as close to the original location, and I want to track it. I want to see where this 40-pound object will float to.
Now, does anybody know what the ice looked like in the river? Was it a solid sheet?
It was big chunks that was coming down. Some of the chunks were 4 to 6 feet across because it had just, that ice jam had just broke free and it was just the big chunks of ice coming
That was
down.
the wide part of the river, right?
Right. Yeah, it's wide there.
And we just had those ice chunks come down just 2 weeks ago, because I was either messaging Dennis or messaging the group that's when I said, I drove over the bridge by the farm fields from Parkville to Walcott, and I drove over the river and the big giant chunks of ice were floating, and I said, man, it just makes me think of Jeremy today seeing that, because in my mind I think, is this 4-year-old boy, is he sitting on one of these chunks, and could he be floating down the river, and the terrifying and what he was experiencing. And I mean,
You see, with law enforcement believing that he did try to jump on a large piece of ice and he slipped and fell off, him being so small, if it's a big enough chunk of ice, if his clothing got caught on the edge of that, because that's going to be jagged stuff coming down through. If he got caught up on that, he could have went a good distance downstream.
yeah. I mean, he and I hate to say things like this, but he could have been crushed to death if he fell between two chunks and the water and the rest of the ice was pushing and shoving. I mean, he could have been crushed to death.
And not to mention, he's only 40 pounds. He would have moved down the river pretty quick.
Right.
And that's why I want to do these tests on a couple of these cases where people have gone missing into the water. And there's been rumors, there's been accusations and theories that these people are in the water and they've gone downstream. And like I said, we're not recreating 100% exact science. We can't. We just can't 100% recreate it. But what we can do is try our best to recreate, just for research purposes, to get an idea.
Well, I know this is going to sound a little bad, and if there's any animal lovers, I'm sorry. But what about a
pig?
Pig.
I've seen people do experiments with pigs. Once again, it's not an exact science, but what if we were to get a 40-pound piglet and try to do it that way?
That's the closest to human when it comes to structures.
I mean, I think because my initial idea with the test was, at first it was some type of mannequin type thing, and then I thought, oh no, that will get me in trouble. That's going to I don't want to cause wrecks on the highway, because people are stopping and calling the police and they're saying, oh, there's something floating down the river. I don't want to do that. And I thought, well, if I got a, like a boat bumper buoy thing, what if I got one of those and I put a tag to it and put a watertight bag on it with our information? And then I thought, well, that's going to float, but it's not 40 pounds. We're not recreating. And then I thought, well, what if I got a whole bunch of them and zip tied them together and tried to get them around the 40-pound mark? And I thought, well, wait a minute. Well, that's not really going to work. So, I mean, I go on YouTube and I watch videos with people doing experiments with air tags. So I've been trying to find something that we can just do the best we can for research purposes, to prove or disprove. The reality is yes, this could have very well happened. He could have gone here if he was on the ice or he fell off the ice. And, how far could he have gone till he got caught up in something or washed up on the bank? Or did he wash out into the center? Did he float out into the river? And could he have gone to downtown Kansas City? Could he have gone past it? And I never want to sound disrespectful because of talking about someone who's possibly deceased, but how do we know in St. Louis that months down the road they didn't find a deceased child on the riverbank and they thought it was from their area and it's been unidentified this whole time? I mean, we don't know, and that's where I'm curious as to how much. I know Dan's going to start looking right now. Look all through Missouri, how possibly is there any unidentified, children's bodies that was found in February, March, April, May of 1977?
If my phone would cooperate today, it's been overworked for the past 2 days.
It's because you're the TikTok man, Dan.
Hey, we can confirm that Melody and Jeremy's sister Amanda both submitted DNA. It's part of the book I haven't got to yet, so I've just been flipping through.
Yeah, but
and
that's
it's here that
different,
they did submit DNA.
That's different. It's submitted to law enforcement.
Yeah. I'm talking about doing it on ancestry.com or one of the, and if they would agree to do it, I have no problem paying for it to help the cause. If they're willing to do it, I have no problem, paying for this so we can move forward to. It's just another part of the whole thing, and
this was KBI that they submitted it to.
Yeah.
Okay, give me a year.
1977.
Okay, I'll do 7G7 to.
Let's just do February through December of 1977 because we would have gone through so many seasonal changes that.
To current?
I don't know. Do 5 years. Do 5 years. Do 77 to what? 82, 83, something like that.
This would have been in 2009 when she submitted this.
Yeah. But that's just on the behalf to the state if they ever find remains and they can test. I'm talking about wanting them to do it on like ancestry.com.
Missouri?
Yes, Missouri. Kansas.
I'll do both Kansas and Missouri.
It would have to be Kansas and Missouri because it flows into Missouri. So Atchison, Kansas, all the way into Missouri that way.
Hang on.
Just my thought is just if they don't have an ancestry profile, doing it, linking up who they're related to, and seeing if anybody else has done it and there's a matching hit.
All right. Give me height.
Height, at the time that he went missing, he was 3 foot tall.
Estimated weight.
Estimated weight was 40 pounds. So we could say 35 to 45. And possibly, I mean, he had clothes on, so it's
None.
say that again.
None.
None. What do you mean?
None were found between 1977 1982. Let's go further.
Go 83. We'll just do 83 current.
I'll do the day that he went missing to current. None.
None.
At that size.
Is there anything close in size? Up or down?
Let me change the. Let me take out the height, the weight, and see what happens. That changes it to 100.
There we go.
Okay. Date body was found 2022. 2008 is the earliest. Let's see.
Well, where at, Dan? Let's start there. Where was the remains found?
I'm working on it. Springfield, Missouri. Estimated age of the person 11 to 21, adolescent.
Yeah, the remains would be too tall.
All they found was a skull.
Oh wow.
Let me check the next one in 2008. This one was an African American. 2009. Too old. Too old. Yeah. No, nothing that matches him. That's put in the database.
And Tamara, was that there in Nebraska? She had commented there was an 8-year-old girl who was swimming in the Platte River with friends and family, and the current started pulling the kids away, and the adults got all the kids out of the water except for her. They searched right away and many times, but haven't found her.
Yeah, the undertow is what gets you.
I don't go swimming in the river. Period. If it don't have a blue bottom with diamonds in it, I don't go swimming. Call me a wimp, whatever.
Hey, listen, I'm from Florida. I done had my close encounters with sharks and alligators. You ain't getting me in no water without it being a pool.
Man, last year when we was in North Carolina, when we went to Myrtle Beach, we went out and we started getting farther and farther out, and I was up to about, I don't know, I was up probably my belly button or a little higher. Man, next thing I know, I was all the way up to my neck, and it was sucking it out and putting it back. And this, every time you could feel the sand go underneath your feet, and you would drop a couple inches. And Tammy lost her high dollar glasses, and Tayden kept diving down, and Tayden actually found them. And I was like, nope, I'm going back up to where it's only ankle deep.
Yeah, and when you can't see what's rubbing up against your leg and it's just seaweed, you move pretty quick to get out the water.
Nope, not me.
Oh man, my favorite swimming holes was ponds and creeks.
Absolutely not. I don't know. I got some wig out weird thing in my head about swimming in water I can't see through. And it doesn't have a pool liner in it. So
I don't disagree with you, Alex. You ain't getting me in nothing without it being a pool.
and you know, when we were in North Carolina, and you could look, you could see the crabs running, the little, I don't know what kind of crabs they are, some crabs. they'd be running by your feet and stuff. And I was just like, nope. But yeah, there's no way I'm going swimming in no dark, murky water with nope. Not even going there today.
And guys, those of you who have looked at this case before, I know some of you have. I know Ricky with Kansas Missing and Unsolved has really looked at this. He's friends with Melody, Jeremy's mom. But if you have any information or locations of interest that you think we ought to get on to check, make sure to get that out to us. Our email, phone number, and the P.O. box is also down in the video description. You could use any of that or messages, whatever it may be. But
Yeah.
get that out to us because we will start searching this spring. And we were likely going to focus on the ponds first, get those checked, see if we could roll those out, and then eventually move down towards the river and go from there. So if you have any locations of interest, let us know. We'll get that on our list of areas to search.
Now, I do have an idea, Dennis. I've become pretty good friends with somebody that's got underwater drones. Those things are very useful.
Right.
$4,000, but worth every penny.
Yeah. That would be pretty awesome. But how well do they work in a river situation with a current versus a pond or lake situation where you're not dealing with that?
They were used around a dam, if that gives you a good idea.
Wow.
They go 300 feet from the operator. You can monitor everything on the screen. One of them's got a claw that picks up things.
Are these remote controlled with a cable, or are these completely control independent of cable?
With a cable.
With a cable.
Those things are just amazing what all they could do with those.
Yeah.
And like we have our camera system we can lower underwater. And if it's really dirty, nasty water, you're not going to see very much even with that. But those underwater drones, just the lighting systems they have on those, you're still going to get a pretty decent visual.
Yeah. Well, that would be interesting. I mean, that would be well worth trying out and using. I mean, because we have so many cases that we need GPR on, and how many cases could we need this to have? I mean, it would be a great research tool to have.
And like I told Dennis, I sent him the business card. They also have a cadaver dog team that they don't require law enforcement.
We need to get them here.
Right.
Man.
I would like to have a cadaver dog team over where we're looking for crystal kipper.
And that's what brought up that conversation between me and her. I kept explaining to her law enforcement won't bring out a cadaver dog team, and we need one.
Yeah, because, I mean, not to change the subject, but Crystal Kipper's case and the guy that had that was basically related to her. I mean, and how many women disappeared in his general area in that time frame and all of that. I mean, in the years up to it. I mean, and if this guy was seen in this area and this was one of his favorite fishing spots and he knew that he could pull in there at any time and he could get away with stuff, I mean, not only does that put anybody in the murder status, that puts you in the serial killer murderer status. I mean, and I mean, let's be honest. He could be down. Anybody could be down digging holes in the sides of creek banks, because we already know it's like sand down there, just pure sand almost. Because I mean, we were on our hands and knees digging down there and shoving sticks in the ground, and it was nothing.
Say you dug that hole pretty decent sized with just a stick in just a couple minutes. I mean, very quick.
Yeah.
And Chris had that pipe. He was shoving down 3-4 feet into the ground without much effort at all.
Yeah.
Now, was that close where you guys were poking in the ground? Was that close near the new bridge?
Yes.
That might be why it was so soft there.
Well, this was actually under the train bridge.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, I mean, we have to remember, too, that when Crystal Kipper went missing, that one field that we were walking, we went back and looked at, historical imaging sites, and that was woods. That was a forest. I mean, those people, if the people that own it now owned it then, I mean, they evidently cleared it for more crops. Somebody has cleared it because it was all woods, because you can just tell by the levee and how everything was. So, but that area down there, you could tell that it was more of a sandy type mix than it was, regular clay topsoil type mixes.
Now, it could have also been cleared out by the people that put in the new bridge.
This was way over from that.
Yeah, this was, it was too big of an area. I mean, I could see if they were clearing and they cleared a couple 100 feet, but this was a humongous field.
Even to put like equipment and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah.
This would have been way out of the way from the bridge. Oh. And this is on the opposite side of the train bridge and where the new bridge comes through.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. But yeah, and that's crazy because if Jeremy would have been in the water, he would have went right past this area.
Right.
Because that creek runs right into that river. I mean, that river's right there on the west side of those fields. That's a good idea. I mean, yeah, we could definitely try, a pillow, a blanket wrapped up. I mean, of course. I mean, and thank you for, suggesting that, because I mean, that is definitely an idea to try. And
you can like put a little bit of sand in the bottom of it, or like a 40-pound punching bag.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've tried thinking all the different things that we could use, but not get in trouble, or because, like I said, I definitely do not want to use. Ideally, if we could get a mannequin, a 40-pound mannequin, 3 foot tall, wrap some clothes on it, put the air tag on it, tie, a watertight boating bag on it with our information, explaining that this is a experiment on a base, research experiment for missing people's team. That would be the ideal thing to do. But I clearly could see this thing floating down the river and people seeing it and people pulling over, calling 911. And I do not want to do that.
Now, what if you tethered it to a boat that you're in, but gave it enough slack to float freely?
Meaning, if we floated with it,
yes,
and just
made sure it had the slack to do what it needed to do by itself without no interruptions.
I mean, yeah, that's an idea. We would have to get in the boat and make it how many, I mean, who knows? I mean, it's all research. So we have no idea how far it could go. I mean, we could go a couple 100 feet. We could go a couple 100 miles. and
Yeah,
that's
like one of my catfish rods, it's got like 80-pound test on it. Even using a fishing reel with the dial open where that's just feeding the line out to it, it's not going to hinder it.
Right.
And
Or even
still attached to it, where if it does hang up or it gets moved over to the bank and we're able to determine that's where it's going to go, reel it right back in.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And as you said, this isn't a scientific, this is absolute, but I think it's going to give us a range to look at and a basic general idea of how far something's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And granted, obviously, different conditions are going to affect travel different ways, but this is still going to give us a basic idea. And if
Yeah.
we decide it went this far, say if it goes a mile downstream, we could say it could go up to 2 miles and give us that leeway that this is the area that needs searched. Start from the furthest point, work our way into it.
And do it in multiple seasons so you can test cold water and warm water.
Is the and I know this, and once again, forgive me because I have not finished the book, but is there any pictures of the river that day in the book? Or is there any pictures anywhere online of like the search going on and it shows what the river looked like? Meaning how much ice was in the river, how much ice, how much water, etc. Because that plays a big role. I mean, if it was solid and he thought he was just I mean, let's be honest. How much does a 4-year-old know and understand? I mean, if it was he was out walking and he started walking, I mean, he could have walked clear across the river and then fell in. I mean, let's be honest. He could have walked clear across the river if it was frozen and was on the other side of the river walking.
We got pictures in the book.
Okay. So what is it? I can't really tell.
It's real. These chunks of ice, it's just solid going through.
So it's solid all the way across?
Well, it's chunks going through, but it's just full of them.
Well, how in the world did I mean, he could have walked clear across and started walking down the whole other side of the river on the opposite bank.
No, that's just chunks, though. It's not a solid sheet. It's the chunks going across. But there's so many of them, it almost looks solid, but it's not. Which would be consistent with him thinking this is solid and just trying to walk out on it and it not being and falling in.
Yeah. Man, I mean, I just was thinking, I'm thinking, wow, what if he made it across the river walking? I mean, let's be honest. If he walked a quarter mile from the babysitters to the river, what's not to say he didn't walk across the river and he made it to the other side on the ice, whatever, and he went walking down the whole other side and something happened. That's just what's crazy. I mean, there's the thoughts and the what ifs are just so huge because
now, okay, I do know this about the dogs. If he was made it across that ice without going in water, the dog would have been able to track it.
Meaning what, Dan? I mean, sorry, I kind of lost you on that one. If
he stayed on the ice all the way across, the dog would have been able to track him all the way across the river.
Dog would have tried to walk across and kept walking, right? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Unless the ice went.
Yeah, at that point, the ice would have moved down. And the dog's done, the air sniff dogs are trained that when they get to like the river and they know that's where they went, they set down and don't go any further. Both times that the first team went out, they done that. The second time that the first team went out, okay, let me back up here. The first time the dog team went out, they didn't let any members of the family go with them because, like, Jeremy's scent would be on them for up to a week, and it would confuse the dog being an air sniff dog. So the dog team went first, and the dog went down the trail and sat down at the river. They come back, and when they told Melody, everybody else knew they were, again, handling her with kids' gloves, being 9 months pregnant. But when they told her, she told them, I've got to see this for myself. But with her being pregnant, they didn't want her walking that distance. So her husband went with them. And the dog again went right back to the same spot and sat down. But as her husband walked up, or Jeremy's dad walks up, the dog could smell Jeremy on Jeremy's dad. So the dog got up and walked over to him and sat down. When down the road, the other guy comes in with his dog, it went straight down to the river and once again sat down in the same spot on the riverbank.
Now, do we know if they took the dog on the other side of the river?
They did not.
But that's where one of my, I guess, thinking now for the last 15 minutes of us discussing is, what if he would have made it across? I mean, did they take the dogs on the other side to see if they could find any scent track? I mean,
because if that ice jam had just broken up and come down through, and we're talking 4 to 6 feet wide chunks of ice, that's going to be enough and thick enough that a child his age could walk out on. So was there enough that it was solid enough that he could have walked all the way across?
yeah.
Again, that is grasping at straws.
Yeah.
But under the right conditions could be possible.
Yeah. But, thinking back to what if he fell in the water, what was the temperature of the water? I mean, of course, we know there's ice in it. How fast does the hypothermia set in on a 4-year-old that weighs, 40 pounds? What's the life expectancy?
Right.
And not only that, the colder the water, the quicker the body sinks.
I don't know. I just know we can't, of course, give up and on any of our thoughts of what could possibly happen. I mean, we need to kind of look at all of them, and just do like we normally do. What's more realistic, what is too far-fetched. Right now,
my initial thoughts on this is he likely went into the river, but knowing that there's signs at a pond, I think that needs to be checked. And to be honest, that's going to be an easier search than anything on the river. So my opinion, and we'll be discussing this as a team to figure out the best route to go forward. My opinion is to focus on the ponds first, get those knocked out. If nothing's there, move to the ground along the river, see if we're able to pick up anything through there. If not, then the river itself. And both of those, the ground along the river and the river, your experiment is going to be good information to use on this case.
Yeah.
Now, how could we find out if a train went by that far back?
Well, I mean, what kind of record keeping was done? What railroad track is it? Who owns it? What rail service uses it? I mean, I don't know. I don't really, I guess, need to find out who owns it, how long they've owned it. Was there any kind of record? I mean,
is there a way to find out from the roommate if she heard a train horn? Or the babysitter, pardon me.
I don't know. Where did that rumor come from? Is it in the book, or is it just stuff that we've heard and read about?
Now, the train tracks he would have had to have crossed going to the river if that's where he went. And I don't remember if his mom told me this or if it was in something I read, but they did find a child's footprint also down by the train tracks, which is what made her originally start looking at the possibility of somebody grabbing him, taking him on the train, or could, a hobo or somebody going through take off with him. And depending on if this was a really large train, could that train be stopped there with the door open that he just happened to climb up and climb into?
And does that train slow down or stop in that area? Because a lot of them just keep going.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be a question for the babysitter. And I mean, I suspect that the babysitter is what are we, 51, 61? I mean, we could be 68. Let's just say they were 18 years old when this happened. I mean, 68, 70 some years old and older. Well, that's what they would be now, depending on how old they were. I mean, how old was Jeremy's mom when she had Jeremy? Do we know anything like that? Was she in her early 20s?
I don't know.
I mean, anything, I've never seen any documentation of the babysitter coming forward to discuss what happened.
So I would like to talk with the babysitter. I know Melody, Jeremy's mom, she told me that with Jeremy's problems, being deaf, having the hearing aids, the babysitter was really, really good taking care of Jeremy, knowing what to do with him, very, very trusted by the family. And, I would like to talk to her and bring some of these questions up and get answers from her as well, because she was there when this took place. She wasn't right there with him, but she was on the same property. So she's going to be more likely to know if a train was coming through and, what the river looked like.
Is she still in Kansas or Missouri?
I'm not sure about the babysitter.
No, the mom.
The mom, yeah, she still is in Kansas. I want to say Hiawatha, Kansas. And when we do the searches, we talked about it, and I believe she is going to come to Atchison, Kansas when we do the searches. There's likely going to be some of the other locals there that know the family that will be coming out as well.
Yeah, because Hiawatha is not that far from Atchison. Not extremely far away.
And I can also say, even after all of these years, talking with his mom, still very emotional, still very heartbroken. The feeling I got talking to her made you feel like he just went missing yesterday. I mean, this is still very, very real for her. And that, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but it was kind of nice because you guys know we have some cases that the family members just act like they don't care if the person's found or not. You don't see no grief, nothing. And when you do see this, like in this case, it makes you want to work harder for the family. It makes it real.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've experienced that numerous cases of frankly, people just don't give a shit anymore. It's
Right.
been so long, they have dealt with every aspect of grief, loss, whatever. Some cases they think people were into drugs. Some people, ran away on their own accord, and the family felt disrespected, hated, whatnot, and they were just like, screw it. They want to run away and disappear, then whatever, you know. But that's clearly not the case with, Jeremy Coots's parents. I don't, um, but we haven't talked with Jeremy's father. We've only talked with Jeremy's mother. And she was remarried. She did over time move on.
And he's been really, really supportive of her and the family in their efforts of finding Jeremy as well.
Yeah. So,
and I know that she is going to watch this at some point. So I've discussed it with her before, but Melody, absolutely wide open invitation to join us on a live feed and talk about the case at a time that you're ready and in any way that you feel comfortable doing so. That same invite extends to anybody that's related to a missing person, friends with the person, whatever the case may be. Open invite to come on, share your story, and just reach out and we will get that scheduled.
Yeah. We always want everybody to know that, we are here to listen, to discuss, um, you know, um, and we want people to know that. We want people to know that everybody is welcome. We had some issues, a couple weeks ago that stuff happened. And we don't put anybody on a pedestal above anybody else. I mean, we treat everybody fairly. We respect everybody. Of course, we can agree to disagree. We can disagree and leave it at that. But we try to look at everything, and we always try to look at everything from one side of the spectrum to the other. I mean, we've discussed, well, what if the babysitter had something to do with Jeremy? What if there was an accident? Unfortunately, we have to say that, because that happens with every case. We have to look at one side to the spectrum to the other, and that's part of it. That's part of talking through things and looking at the information, facts, and trying to make heads or tails of it and try to figure out what is the best way for someone like us to help somebody move forward with trying to get answers. We do the best that we can do, and that's how it is.
See, that's where our 50-50 comes in and we're going to do a video or live feed in the future to kind of break down how we go about looking at all of this stuff. But our 50-50, we look at, what percentage is this possible? What percentage is it not? To kind of break things down. Not very often do we get to rule anything out.
Yeah.
We feel that you've got to find the person to know exactly what it is that happened to them. Until then, everything's on the table. It's just where it sets on the table that we use our 50-50 for.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. It's just, that's just part of it is just looking from one extreme of it to the other, and this makes a lot of sense. I mean, factually, this over here is BS, man. There's no way this happened. I mean, we're not going to even remotely spend time on that when this stuff over here looks way more factual, truthful. This is what probably could have happened or did happen, we think. I mean, and I hope people understand that.
I don't know of anybody that has run sonar in that area anytime recently. I know AWP was in Atchison and was searching the river for Billy and Mary Black, but I don't believe they actually went down far enough to have sonar this area in Jeremy Coots' case.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know personally of anybody that's been out there sonaring.
Yeah. And of course, they were looking for a car.
Right.
With Billy and Mary Black, we're looking for two missing people in a car because the car is also gone. We're not looking for an individual who's, possibly laying on the bottom in the water. And the Blacks, they're another case where it's just poof, they're just 100% gone. There's no car, there's no nothing, there's no clothes, there's no credit cards being used, there's no money being pulled out of bank accounts. They are literally just gone, disappeared off the face of the earth type situation.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the tough ones. I mean, there's just nothing. There's just nothing.
I don't know anybody that's dove in that area either. I know a lot of people are hesitant diving on the Missouri River.
What, Jeremy's mom, when you've had discussions with her, what did she say? Like, when was the last legitimate time people physically were on boots on the ground searching? Has she ever mentioned that to you? Like,
I know she is in the area every year around this time. She will take, she'll put flowers out on the grave and then go out here. She bought the headstone and gravesite very early on. Having a new baby, she wanted to get this out of the way and kind of, in a way, comfort her and give her a place to go. But she goes out to the river as well. They'll put flowers out. She'll look around. She did say nothing there really looks the same as what it did in 1977. I guess there's a lot of junk around the area now that wasn't there back then. So a bunch of changes have taken place. But as far as wide-scale searches, I don't know of any more that took place other than the initial 5 days of searching.
Something when we do speak with her next time and you are in communication with her, if she would, I would love to be able to get a Google Earth image blown up of as close as possible to the house and to the possible pathway where they think where Jeremy left the house, went down, crossed the railroad tracks, went to the river. And I would like to pull up our historical imaging sites and to look at that same general area, try to find it in relationship to the house, the railroad tracks, and see how much has changed, if we can. How much was it clear back then, and now it's all forested over with trees and brush, etc.
I want to say she did send me an image. I'll go through my images and see, but I think she did send me an image where she has a line drawn where he would have went and where the dogs went.
Okay.
So I'll check my images, and if I have that, I'll send it over to you.
Okay.
I think she did send that.
Because I mean, just like Crystal Kipper's situation, and looking at the historical images, we found out that farm field once was completely a forest. It was
Right.
wooded over, and at some point, depending, I mean, I won't mention the name of who owns the property right now, but either back in the day they cleared it, pushed all the trees over, burned it, whatever, and that's why it all become farmland for them to grow crops. But I would like, for us, for our research purposes, be able to look at it and make heads or tails of, the, what do you call that, topography?
Yeah.
Those big words that I don't speak, because I went to Baser, Linwood.
And I don't know how well you can see that, but the red dot is that where the babysitter's house is.
Yeah, I'm colorblind. I can't see that.
Or right in the middle of where the coordinates come across the screen.
Okay, yeah, and I can see the railroad tracks. That's a good distance from the river.
Right.
That's a real big distance from the river. Do we know what kind of wildlife was around back then?
I mean, basically just what's here today. I mean, there may have been like a black bear in the area back then, but nothing really different from today.
We just have to call the conservation office and be like, yo, we need to ask some questions. What was in the area back in 77? Foxes, bobcats, was there mountain lions, coyotes, wolves, what was typically here? What is documented that was in this area?
It's a good idea.
I'm sure conservation group people, whatever you call it, Missouri or game warden.
Mm-hmm.
A game warden, animal control game warden people. Surely we could get somewhere with that.
Yeah, because really nothing can be ruled out. Nothing at all.
But in the same token, and I hate to say this, if he was attacked by a mountain lion or something like that, they would have been able to probably seen the scuffle on the ground. They probably would have seen drag marks where it would have dragged his body, by the arm, legs, neck, whatever. And I apologize. I hate talking like that in that aspect, but I think because if you go back to David Paulides and his videos and all of his missing people stuff, and they talk about these missing children that had issues, whether it was a mental issue or physical, and how they, there was 1,000 people there and they searched all of these woods and they did all this. And then 3 months later, the child's body was picked up just 200 feet from where everybody started to search, one of those situations. And they talk about the mountain lions tearing the clothes, but in this case we have nothing. We have no clothes. We have found there's nothing to this day that's ever been said.
Now with his size, a mountain lion, and I'm going to use a deer so it's not quite as graphic, but if a mountain lion takes down a deer, they're going to take it up into a tree and hang it over a branch. If Jeremy was a victim of a mountain lion and being, 40 to 60 pounds, that mountain lion is going to pick him up and take off with him. Even if he's fighting, that mountain lion ain't going to have any issues at all.
Oh, absolutely.
And may not leave a scene of a struggle or anything, because that would happen so quick.
Yeah, but Alex brought up a good point, though. There would be some sort of a track of a wild animal, wouldn't you think?
Well,
unless it's leaf covered.
Right. And this appeared to have a lot of leaves on the ground at the time because they mentioned seeing there at the log where the leaves were all tussled up, where they believed the two boys had played, or at least Jeremy had played on his way through. So it does, and being a wooded area and the types of trees we're seeing in the photos, those leaves are going to be on the ground. And the ground is going to be still pretty frozen. It was just an abnormal hot day that particular day. So leaving tracks in that time frame may not have happened.
Now, would that scent, say the mountain lion, say an animal did take them, and it kept them on the land, wouldn't them tracking dogs be able to track that on the land?
You would think so because they were air sniff dogs, so they should have been able to pick up where it diverted off. Even if he got taken from the edge of the river by a mountain lion, it should still smell that and be able to follow it.
Yeah, you would think so.
So, guys, we're looking at every possibility we could think of in this case. Again, odds are he did go into the river, but we want to make sure that we are able to fully rule out everything else to make certain.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And law enforcement there and in that time frame with the equipment and technology that they had or didn't have at the time. Now, I think they done a really good job out there doing these searches. And again, the first 5 days was when the search was fully active with law enforcement, the National Guard, the volunteers. And after that, it kind of slowed down, which you typically see in these cases. If you search a property and you don't find nothing, you move on somewhere else. With law enforcement, you follow leads. This particular case, there's no leads to follow. So it kind of ties them up where they've got nowhere to go. But I think they done really good getting out there and searching. Just the pond, the only thing I questioned with that pond was the timing from the time they had the water all boiled up to doing a drag, because if there wasn't enough time for things to settle down, you're not going to have much luck with a drag in a situation like that.
Yeah.
But the ponds need to be searched and ruled out. I honestly have my doubts that anything is found there, but we're not going to know till we get there and get it checked.
Yeah. I have this lingering thought of thinking about across the river. It just makes you wonder, I mean, no different than all the thoughts in my head of like doing the DNA test on ancestry.com and just putting it out there, and just thinking, what if somebody questioned their past and who they really were and they did it? And then all of a sudden they would get a hit on these other people that says they're a possible match to a brother, sister, mother, father, aunt, uncle, so on and so forth.
Well, how about this? Right before we do go out to start our searches, I will get a hold of his mom and see if she would be willing to meet up. That's really not that far from here.
Yeah.
We can go up, sit down with her, take her to lunch or something, and sit down and talk with her. Get some of these questions, get some answers to some of those. I think that will help steer us in the right direction when we start the searches.
Yeah. I agree. Sounds like a party going on downstairs here at my house. I hear all kinds of stuff going on down there. But yeah, I agree. I would love to sit down and, for us to be able to meet her. And I would love to be able to sit down and talk to her and meet her before we actually physically go do a search.
And she's very easy to talk to, just super sweet person.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I make comments all the time because I'm friends with her on Facebook. I think you are too. But yeah, I'll always like things that she posts or that. And she's made a few comments, I believe, towards stuff that I've said. So she seems like a very nice, genuine lady. It's just, can only imagine what they're going through today. Her, Jeremy's father, brothers and sisters, the whole family. So.
And guys, normally I don't come on and like advertise products for other people and things like that. But she did write a book about the case, and I'm going to pull it full screen. In Search of Jeremy, A Mother's Story. Melody Faith Hathaway is her name. The book can be found on Amazon. Again, I have read part of it. I have to finish it. Very well written. I mean, it tells the entire story, and I mean, you could feel what she's going through in the book.
Yeah.
So if you get a chance, check that out, and it'll give you a more detailed look at this case and what's going on with it.
Absolutely.
Now, Dennis, I'm going to give you guys the same idea we've been discussing on my live streams. We have recently found out that Life 360 has tiles that you can put in your shoes, your children's shoes, family members that have medical conditions, and you can track their movement. Say they get lost, they run away, they get abducted. Nobody's going to know it's in their shoe.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's like with the Apple AirTag, because I had a tile for my keys, and I had it a couple years ago. I actually still have it. And then I got the AirTags because I saw some videos and I was like, heck yeah, I'll just put them on my equipment all over my trailers. And now I got them on right now, right there in my wallet. You can see it. There's one right there. And it's pretty cool, it's pretty cool, with that. But I mean, I think that, I guess in a general, I think that there's not enough stuff that people do for their children to keep their children safe. It's different today than it was 5 years ago versus 10 years ago versus 30 years ago to 50 years ago. I don't think the news does enough to keep people thinking, oh, there's people you don't ever hear it unless it's some big known case. You never hear things. And it's just like right now. I mean, what was it? Probably 2 months ago, we were getting hammered left and right with missing people stuff, and we were sharing stuff, and it's just quiet now. It's quiet on my end. Nobody has sent me a flyer. Nobody has said anything. But there's still people going missing every day. I mean, just
Alex, I wish I could be right there with you, but it's not quiet nowhere near.
No, and with what Dan does with the Amber Alert stuff and everything that he's working on, I mean, we know 100% that's not the case. But what has happened in the last month or month and a half, like on my social media side, why I'm not getting nothing.
Algorithm.
Do what, Dan?
Algorithm. It's all about the algorithm.
it's just crazy. So
We did have about 20 cases come in the last couple weeks. 13 of those, they are still missing. I did the case layout video the other night. 7 of those had already been found before I set up to do the video. Most of them were found deceased, but there were 13 new ones. I've noticed if I don't get on Facebook for a day, which is rare, then the next day my notifications and everything is just like cattywampus. There's not much of anything or new posts from some of the groups and stuff I follow. I don't see. And then I go to that group and look through it, and then they start showing up in my news feed again. But it just, I don't know. I don't think I fully understand social media to start with.
yeah, it's just it's just crazy. It's just crazy how it it comes and goes and spurts. I mean of course not with Dan with what he deals with, and because Dan is on this stuff every day, night and day. Dan probably works. Nobody probably works harder than Dan when it comes to Amber Alerts, children. I mean, Dan keeps the fight going every day, nonstop. Um, and we're blessed. We're blessed to have Dan and what he's doing and helping out and spreading the word. And like I told Dan earlier, I apologize for Dan for not being able the last week or two taking part of all his stuff, because I always try to get on when he's on and participate and see what the case is about, and I just haven't been able to because we've just been so busy and dealing with so much on the stuff that I'm helping with, and it's just crazy.
I'll tell you one thing we did learn in this past 2 days. No matter how clear you put something on a flyer and it's right there in front of their face, they still don't read the flyer. They ask the questions.
That sounds like Marketplace. I deal with so many people who cannot, right now, if they were looking at Marketplace, they would be like, Dan, Muddy, do you do research?
Nope.
Are you selling special? Are you a specialist? I mean, that's how every 99% of the people that I deal with on Facebook Marketplace cannot read past the first 2 sentences. And I understand. And I hate, because my first line is, please reread this. Please read this before you ask any questions. And I'll get the same thing. Oh, well, I didn't click on the whole thing and read it. I just read the first line. And I'm like, and I don't get that. I don't get why people have just changed so much, and I just don't get it. I don't get why people act the way they do. Maybe we can blame
They
it on.
don't want to do the work anymore. They want it to be done for them.
That could be very true too, Dennis. I mean, 100%. So I don't know. Just people either don't use their heads, they don't care, And by all means, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody. It's just sometimes people are just out in left field. That's what my dad used to say. He'd say, "You're out in left field. You're so far out in left field, you're at somebody else's ball game." So,
I wish I had a nickel for every time I've heard you say that too, though.
oh yeah,
The apple don't fall far from the tree.
right. That's
Hey
right.
guys, up here on the screen, missing_in_USA. That is Dan. That is also his name over on TikTok. If you get a chance, go over and follow him on TikTok. Check out all the great things he is doing over there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, guys, again, if there's anything on Jeremy's case you had that you think could help us in our efforts of finding him, any locations of interest, please get that over to us. As always, our contact information is down in the video description, including the P.O. box. If you would rather remain anonymous, you can send it to that and be anonymous. We do not share information from a source publicly without that person's permission to do so. And I think our past on here kind of proves that. We've had people get upset over it, the whole name calling in the comments because we wouldn't release information without permission to do so. But something we take very serious. So if you have any information or on any other case we're working on, please get that over to us.
Yes. Absolutely.
You know, we've been able to keep the drama at a bare minimal on the channel over here. But when it pops up, oh my goodness, it's like it just waits to sucker punch all at once.
Now I can change the drama over here. I tell everybody that's in my live stream to start coming over here.
You keep that drama.
Yeah. Yeah. We do really well for quite a while, and then we'll have something that happens, and some people will get bent out of shape over some things, and I guess what you can say is we have so many people that work so hard on cases. You know, lots of people here on our channel, lots of people that are on all of our shows, and they all work as a part to help. Whether they are helping us, they're helping other people, they're helping other groups, which is great because none of this ever gets solved or resolved. I mean, it takes a whole bunch of people talking, working through things, looking at information. And sometimes people just get so upset. You know, they get so bent out of whack, and fingers start getting pointed and names start getting called. And by all means, we don't, you point down at me down at the bottom. Why am I down at the bottom? How come I can't be? But yeah, I've made a few people mad, but I'm doing it out of the genuine of my heart and what I think. And, you know, we all have a right to say and express how we feel or what we think, you know, and I accept everybody's point of view different than I hope they accept what I'm trying to say or what I think. Because in the end, we all don't think alike. You know, I mean, we all three have had discussions about things, and one or two or all three of us might not get along on what we're thinking or saying or so on and so forth. But we always talk through it, and we try to understand each other's point of view. Well, sometimes on social media, that just doesn't work. And like we said earlier, we don't ever try to put somebody on a pedestal, you know, on a chair high above anybody else. That's not how we operate. And you know, we try to treat everybody equal. We try to listen to everybody equally, and look at what other people have to say. Because that's just who we are. You know, we're here to help, and we help other people in all different ways how things benefit people. So, but on a different note, this weekend coming up is the farm show, and we will be there on having a display, having a booth. So, once again, if anybody has any information on a case or they would like to physically come and talk to us, we will be at the farm show. We can meet in closed quarters. There's all kinds of places at the farm show, conference rooms in the, you know, the American Royal Complex. So if you would like to come and talk to us about a case, about some information, please we will be there to talk and discuss. And, we're here to help. We're here to talk. If you need an ear to talk to about something, let us know,
I'm actually surprised that didn't get canceled with
Why?
what just happened.
Oh,
at the Chiefs parade.
yeah.
Now, I did see that both minors have been charged. I haven't seen what the charges are yet, but turns out, it wasn't a terror threat that everybody was worried it was. These two guys apparently had a disagreement, pulled their guns, and just started shooting. I mean, just ignorance at its finest.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so sad. In the end, the next Super Bowl party, next Super Bowl parade, maybe they need to have it at the stadium and let people in, and you just sit wherever and you get checked as you come in for weapons. Maybe that's what they need to do.
I'll be the first to say I support the Second Amendment probably stronger than anybody else, but common sense. I mean, there has to be common sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Cindy, she said, always interested in Randy Leach. We will have part 2 of our Randy Leach live feed coming up before too long. This coming weekend, the farm show. I'm not sure if we will go live Sunday night or not just yet. We are going to try to go live while we're at the farm show.
Absolutely.
But down the road, we'll have another Sunday night that we do Randy Leach part 2.
And at the farm show, the Missouri Highway Patrol should be about 2 or 3 booths over from us. Because where they're putting us, where the Highway Patrol is always at. So, we might go live if we can get, the Missouri Highway Patrol to talk to us about missing people's cases and, what's currently going on in the state of Missouri, et cetera. Maybe we can get some type of interview with them and talk to them, because last year when we were there and I had talked to them, I told them, that I was the one doing the missing persons report, and they were very nice and very thankful that we were doing it and, trying to help. So hopefully with us being right next to them, and we can go over and introduce ourselves and talk to them, and hopefully they'll be willing to, do a live interview with us, and we can do some questioning and answers and, see what they have to say,
And I think with law enforcement, what I'm seeing, we've had some good interactions with law enforcement with just phone calls. But I think that face to face, just that neutral setting, just talking, getting to know each other, I think that's going to go a long ways. And I look forward to meeting with these law enforcement and speaking with them.
Yeah.
Let them see we're not here to step on anybody's toes. We're not accusing them of not doing their jobs by any means. We're just here to help the families find their missing loved ones.
Sorry, somebody next door is like revving their truck up, like clearing out the cobweb. And I'm thinking, what? Who is this? Who's doing this? They're down below. They live down below the lot where the animals are at in the back of our property. And I can just keep hearing, and I'm like, what is going on out there? I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. But yeah, so if anybody listening, on all of our channels, Dennis, are we on Facebook and YouTube right now together, or just YouTube?
No, it's just YouTube tonight.
Well, if anybody's out and about, if we have anybody that attends the the Western Farm Show at the American Royal Complex here in the Kansas City area, please come by and say hello, introduce yourselves. We would love to meet you.
Yeah, we'd love to meet all you guys. That would be cool.
Yeah. I hope old buddy Dan here can make it to come hang out with us and finally meet face to face.
We can go down and tell Dan we're taking him out for tacos and just bring him up to the farm show.
Lord knows we got some good tacos. Very good. Very delicious.
So, guys, we're at the hour and 55-minute mark. So, unless you guys have something else, we'll probably go ahead and call it a night on here.
Nope.
Nope. Dan's like, nope. I'm not saying another word.
So we will continue to move forward on getting our searches lined up in Jeremy's case. And again, this spring, we will be out searching for Jeremy as well as a multitude of other cases. And we'll keep you guys up to date with that. Our searches for Jeremy, I believe most of these we are going to be able to film and bring you guys along with us on those searches. And we'll get those out to you as soon as possible after the searches conclude. So guys, with that, we will update you on when the next live feed will be. If we don't get to go live this Sunday night, then hopefully the following Sunday night. But we'll keep you guys up to date on it all. With that, until next time, you guys stay safe, and we will catch you guys down the road.
Goodbye, everybody.